Ranking member for Surrey Newton.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I also rise to speak in favor of this bill. Mr. Speaker, I think as I was reading through the information here, and the thoughts were going through my mind was, what took us so long? I mean, we have such a high profile cases coming from all different universities and colleges, and we heard the culture that existed in universities and colleges, and why didn't we take steps to protect those young women, our daughters, our sisters, that we sent to university for higher education. And those stories that those young women tell the world, the victims of sexual assault, the impact left on them is permanent. And Mr. Speaker, I think it's about time that we start to think about these things very, very seriously and take some real steps. Now, when you look at what's going on in universities and colleges, you wonder, these are the institutions where we send our youngsters to get the skills and knowledge that they need to succeed in their careers. And this is where the research is taking place. This is where I think the university play a key role in my view, to shape our societies. And if that kind of culture existed, and the lawmakers knew that this is what's happening, and they were told time and again, and why didn't we act? And I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm sure that we all can take blame for not pushing hard enough to have a policy such as this come early and sooner. When you look at some of the things that you read and some of the studies and surveys that are conducted, the Toronto Star did a survey and did a thorough investigation on this issue. Mr. Speaker, 9 out of 78 universities that they surveyed have only 9 of the 70 have some sort of a policy to deal with issues of sexual assault on their campuses. And they also talked to 24 colleges, none of them have it. So you're talking about over 100 universities and colleges, only 9 of them have policies. Only 9 of them felt that there was a need to have a policy to deal with sexual assault cases. And how do you investigate how the victim can report without getting re-humiliated over and over again to explain her story over and over again, Mr. Speaker. That policy does not exist. And so, Mr. Speaker, I think it is very, very disturbing. I think it's shameful in my view that the university, renowned universities, the universities that the world looks up to, university like UBC, our own here, McGill, University of Toronto, Ryerson, Mr. Speaker, none of them had any policy. So it just tells you what kind of culture is that? What kind of thinking is going on out there? Are we only concentrating on the academic development of those students, not looking out for their health and safety? Who are we trying to teach these skills, Mr. Speaker? How are you supposed to teach them? How are they supposed to learn if we don't even protect them from these kind of assaults?
Member, can you take the seat? House Leader. House Leader.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. We need to reinvigorate the Committee A. So in Committee in Supply A, I call the Ministry of Justice.
Thank you, Minister. Member for Surrey Newton.
Thank you,
for.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I think those are the thoughts that go through your mind, and what was going on in. I mean, these are very smart people who run these universities. Very, very smart people, and some of the smartest people around. And they never thought important enough to have a policy to protect the students that they're trying to teach. So, Mr. Speaker, it is timely that we have this debate going on and we have this policy. But let's go on what the STAR also said in their survey. They said that they spoke to administrators, professors, residence advisors, rape crisis centers, police, parents, friends of victims. Mr. Speaker, they spoke about sexual assaults taking place at parties, at dorm rooms, at apartments rented by students, Mr. Speaker. And they also found out that the victims who were victim of assault have it derailed their academic careers completely. Women attending top institutions across this country left them shaken, confused, anxious, and depressed. And Mr. Speaker, that's the thing that we are trying to, I mean, why would anybody figure out how serious this issue is and that we do something about that? And my issue with this bill is this. I hope the minister is listening, that it talks about, when you look at the explanatory notes, it says the bill requires public post-secondary institutions to establish and implement a sexual misconduct policy. Only the public post-secondary institution. Mr. Speaker, you know there's so many private colleges, and this bill does not apply to them. And I wonder why. I think that's some of the question that we would be asking the minister. Why would you not cover the private institutions? Here, I think the problem is even more serious. Mr. Speaker, these are international students who come to a lot of the private colleges and institutions have them. And we have heard very horror stories about the international students. They are at much more vulnerable situation than our own students. And our own students are facing the issue that I just described in our universities, as serious as they are. But those foreign students in those private colleges are more vulnerable, Mr. Speaker. So I think the minister needs to think that we need to expand this to the private colleges, because those students are at much more vulnerable situation than our home students here attending our universities. These students, many of them, have no place to go. They can't complain. When they complain, they know they probably would be sent back to their country. And so I think there are some real issues here. I think the minister needs to pay a serious attention to this part here. Why would you leave the private colleges out? And you need to add them and include in this bill, either through regulations, if you can do that. I don't know. When the bill only talk about the public post-secondary institutions. So you need to include private colleges here, so that we are serious about protecting all women, all young women going to our university college, regardless whether they are public or they are private. And Mr. Speaker, being a father of a daughter, and many of the members here, the people who are listening, it is one thing that goes through a parent's mind, that when our daughters are at universities and in colleges, and we take pride when they go to the universities that they are acquiring the skills and knowledge that they need to be equal in the society and be equal participant in running our country and making those decisions that affect all of us. But when we always have in the back of our minds, always have that back in our minds, are our daughters safe when they are in university and college, after you read all kind of stories in the media. Mr. Speaker, so that's why I'm saying that those are daughters of somebody who comes here from other countries and they are in private schools, private colleges. They need just as much protection, if not more, Mr. Speaker. So I would hope that the minister will take a serious look at this and try to include the private colleges. and so that all those foreign students that are here, they are protected as well, because they require just as much protection, as I said before, as our students in university and colleges here. So hopefully the minister will find some ways to have this policy expanded to the private colleges, Mr. Speaker, and hopefully that when it comes to the committee stage, we will be asking this question, and hopefully the minister have an answer to address that issue. But I'm happy about this bill, because it does talk about having a very comprehensive policy to deal with sexual assault cases in our university and colleges, and then to have a survey periodically to make sure to see if the policy is working, going through consultation with the students and with the office, with the university faculty, staff, so that we understand that whether the policy needs changes. And that they are required to report to the governing bodies, periodically. I think that is a good thing. So I'm happy that I was able to have my contribution to add to this bill, Mr. Speaker. I think overall it's a good bill, and I think it's a long overdue, and we need this in place like yesterday. And but I think I'm hoping that the minister will seriously consider finding a way to expand this to cover all university colleges, private or public. So thank you very much for the time, and I look forward to further debate.
Thank you, member.